Well, let's speak to Professor Richard Follett, a historian of slavery and emancipation at the University of Sussex, who's in our Westminster studio. Thank you very much for coming in. I mean, it's something that you study, you talk about a lot. Is it, though, do you believe, not talked about enough?
I think there's a problem of amnesia, and that has been an issue for at least a century in terms of slavery. An inability to discuss it, a temptation to erase it from the public memory. But I think certainly in the last 15 years, perhaps 20 years, the creation of the International Museum in Liverpool, for example, the bicentenary in 2007 of 200 years since the abolition of the slave trade, that those issues have brought slavery much more into the public domain. Movies such as Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave have certainly contributed to that as well.
What do you believe were the political motivations for not being as open and honest as the country might have been?
Yes, I think that turns to a question of what is history and what is heritage. In many respects, the heritage of a country, the history of a country, has been artificially constructed over time, not necessarily by professional historians, but in the public imagination. Unpleasant and irritating episodes of world history have, in many respects, been chosen to be sidelined. And the problem with slavery is that it touches such fundamental questions over human rights, over social justice, and over the legacies of racism, many of which still endure till today.
Yeah, and in that respect, when you do, as you do, I'm sorry, this is very basic for you, but I certainly didn't study it very much at school. The more you look into it, the more what happened those decades ago is imprinted on modern society.
Absolutely. 12 million Africans were enslaved and shipped and taken across the Atlantic Ocean to settle any of the plantation societies from Brazil to North America. Britain's contribution to the international slave trade was roughly 25%. The country enriched itself through the slave trade, but the legacies endure, and the legacies endure fundamentally because slavery established racism. And racism created a system of ordering mankind, of denigrating certain types. And those legacies, those racial legacies of slavery, are in so many respects what has endured through time. That is why studying slavery is fundamentally important, because you're addressing issues that are, to be sure, 150 years ago, but their relevance is very contemporary, both in terms of racism, in terms of human rights, and in terms of civil liberties, and what happens when those are denied fundamentally to large groups of people.
Very interesting. Professor Richard Follett, thank you for your expertise today.
Thank you very much.